In this franchise, we have by far the worst team in baseball. The Marlins are 19-50. We rank 28th in runs scored and are 29th in runs allowed. I have a lot of work ahead of me in rebuilding this franchise. And today we take our first major step as we will be drafting for the first time in the franchise. We are almost to draft day where we hold the number 7 overall selection. I've been building a board full of players that could help reshape this franchise. And there should be some great options for us available at number 7 overall. Johnny Grieve is a third baseman I found just last episode in Discovery. Edmund Vina would give us a boost to outfield talent that this team desperately needs. The potential of shortstop Edgar Santana is off the charts. And today we'll be finding out the players we're attempting to turn into the faces of this franchise. Welcome back, everybody, to the Miami Marlins franchise. We are on to episode 5, and we're not going to spend too much more time here in season 1. We know what type of a rebuild this is, and year 1 hasn't been much of a surprise. We have some players developing that should be great players in our future. But we need to focus now on reshaping this team. To follow along in the journey of building up the Miami Marlins this year, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And down below in the description, there is always a link to the series playlist where you can check up on any episodes that you may have missed, especially if you're new to the channel. I'm putting out a lot of content in this series, so the playlist will keep it organized. Just a few more weeks of scouting left. We get Nelson Eden up to 60% scouting, and this puts him 38 on the board. I don't think I need more info than this. We know the offense would have a seriously long way to go, but he is a good defender and only 18 years old. And Discovery still could be helping us out a little bit. Here we have William Lyon. Comes in 30th on the board, a junior college pitching prospect. Oh, he throws some gas too, up close to triple digits with a sweeper, two-seam, and curveball as well. I'm feeling really good about the way this board is coming together. Discovery is also helping us fill out some reliever options. Here we have David Clark, who could be a later round option for us. The Marlins had gotten hot for a little bit. We had actually won 6 of 10 games here in early June. But now we're back to our usual ways. We have lost for an entire week straight. And now Xavier Edwards is going to have a small injured list stint, it appears. I wanted to scout William Lyon a little bit further, and he's going to come in around 56 on the board, 74 to 89 potential. So could be an option maybe with our third selection. This is a lot more Discovery than I typically do in MLB The Show. So I'm curious to find out how long these guys are actually available and how many I'll be able to draft. We are into the month of July now. Marlins sitting at 26-62. And this is the week now of the MLB draft. And we'll do our final round of scouting, as I did get a couple more players scouted that are actually projected to go before us. But I like the way the board has come together, and I wanted to have some information in case somebody unexpectedly fell. So Juan Ordonez, 81 to 92 potential. He is 6 on our board. Might not be available at 7. I also scouted Yusniel Perez with that power in right field. If he was suddenly available, I wanted a plan. And he has fallen down to 22. Still a lot of good skills, but overall defense with the fielding, that's low. Vision, contact, also low. So maybe not as much of a top 5, top 10 type player for us. And then Michael Marlin is going to be a prospect who projects pretty good defensively, but the offense could be lacking. He is one of the lower ranked players I've specifically scouted there, just outside the top 100. And here are the final players we'll look to scout this year, week 14 of 14. We'll wrap that up, and we'll be drafting here shortly as we wrap up a series against the Milwaukee Brewers. We have a 2-1 lead late and do hold on for that victory. Let's get one little situation in, though, before we go drafting. We are trailing by 1 to the Cincinnati Reds. And Jonah Bride, did that say 18 home runs? And we're not even at the All-Star break right now? When I was thinking about, like, what our home run leader would have this year, I was thinking maybe 20 max. But, you know, we do have some players. Wow, that one could have been number 19 if I had been ready for it. We do have some players who are really trying to be part of our future this year, and we're going to focus on them and any remaining action we have to close out the year. But yes, Jonah Bride does have 18 home runs with a 447 slugging, an OPS of 768, and some of these numbers are even lower than last year. He's just belting more home runs. 4 of those coming in his last 10. So Jonah Bride, one of the hottest players on the Marlins right now. And he draws the walk against Josh Stallmont. And that's going to prompt the Reds to bring in a new arm, and that will be the lefty, Taylor Rogers. I knew I recognized the face scan. 4.91 ERA, giving up a 300 average to righties. And Jesus Sanchez steps in. Lucky call there for Rogers. Sanchez, 288 average on the year with a 349 on base. I like the role he has on the team right now. And I think he has a chance to either be part of this core or be a player that could get us a prospect or two in the future. He is 27 years old. So you got to think about the timetable of this team hopefully being competitive again and who fits in that. And he's under this one. Got a good pitch to hit. And I'm going to hold off on running on this one here. I think a lot of guys are seeing their numbers come way up, especially in terms of batting average. 237 for Matt Mervis doesn't feel all that bad. But his on base is still low, slugging at 332, pretty non-existent. Mervis, cracked to left center. That one is going to be run down, and it is one we'll tag on now. And Nick Fortes, not really holding down this starting catcher job all that well, so I think we're going to be making a move very soon with our top catcher prospect. But right now, we might want to get a different player here off the bench, and certainly this is a spot for Dane Myers. That's why he's on the MLB roster right now, to give us an option off the bench against lefties. Wow, just ahead of the sweeper. It's exactly the pitch I wanted. Wow. So mad I missed that previous one, man. Rogers gets out of the inning. We're going to finish this game out. And Jeimer Candelario turns on it. Belted 400 feet to left field as the Reds go up a pair. We got to revamp just about everything on this team, and the bullpen has been in rough shape all season. Hardly our top priority right now, but hopefully we can get to it before long. We're going to put in Declan Cronin, whose numbers have gotten to a really good spot this year. He's not a high strikeout guy, but he's not giving up a lot of runs. Average against lefties is very low. So at least someone is playing well. Tyler Stevenson at the plate with a 2-2 count. And that one's lifted for Sanchez, who runs it down. 96 on the inside edge. And then Cronin gets the swinging strike on the sinker. And grounded straight to Mervis. Should have had him ready to get this inning underway. Maybe it would still be a one-run game. Now, the trade deadline is also coming up. I imagine we passed that today. But I don't think we're in a very good spot to attack the trade deadline from a seller or buyer mindset. Obviously, there's no need for us to, try to get veterans or anything on the team right now. but we don't even have players who are, I think, at a high enough ceiling to bring back big prospects. You know, it's been a tough first half for Sandy Alcantara. Jesus Sanchez, he's playing well, but I think this would be far too early to consider trading him. So if we're going to make trades on players, I would prefer it to be when their value's higher and they don't have a whole lot of time attached to the organization. Cronin just low to Benson. If we were going to trade anybody, it was going to be Cal Quantrill, but a 68 overall underperforming pitcher I didn't think had much trade value. And then the Rockies go and scoop him up off waivers, so what do I know? Christian Encarnacion Strand at the plate as Cronin tries to wrap up another solid inning of work. And it's going to be Lopez out of reach. Running up the pitch count a bit here on Cronin. I'd like this to get wrapped up right here. The 9-hitting Bowman inside out. Mervis has some trouble with it now, and everybody's safe. So we'll make a move here and get a lefty in. Seth Martinez will pitch. His numbers better than some others on the team. Circle change on the outside corner. We get ahead of Fraley, and that's going to be Norby's play. Should just step on the bag there, especially with my fielding sliders the way they are. But let's see if we can get a pair now. Bottom 9. Who believes in the Marlins? I like this intro cam. Let's give Emilio Pagan some epic entrance music. 20 for 21. That's a 1.01 ERA. What has Emilio Pagan become? That's a drive to left field. Derek Hill hits one deep, and it's gone. A solo homer. And the Marlins now trail by just 1 run. 5th homer on the year for Derek Hill. And now we get the top of our order with Otto Lopez. And his offense has been a little underwhelming this year, only hitting .230 with .283 on base and a very low slugging percentage. Pretty similar to Matt Mervis' slash line, honestly. Lopez, though, a really good defender. So Pagan's given up a solo homer and now fallen behind the second batter 3-0. And walks him on 4 pitches. Griffin Conine steps in. We might want to find some outfield competition for his role. 300 slugging is all, and he just misses a meatball. Good swing, too. Just doesn't have it right now. All right, how about Xavier Edwards, whose average has fallen about 50 points. Now only a 309. Still one of our best offensive players. Grounded, and that's Pagan's play. And he will only get 1. Not done yet. Bring up Connor Norby. Yeah, the numbers have definitely been creeping up consistently. 15 homers now on the year, 770 OPS. If we can get him close to the 80s for an overall going into next year, I'll feel really good about that. Oh, I wanted to jump on that one too. What a pitch from Pagan. 0-2. And it's in there for strike 3. Marlins fall short again. 5-4 finish. We have a lot of work to do, and the biggest step towards that is going to come next. We get to the MLB draft. And we've made it to the 2025 first-year player draft. Let's begin. I think we have a really strong board. Our scouts did a really good job finding some undiscovered talent. I have no doubt we're going to be able to do a lot with our first pick, but I really want to maximize picks 39 and 42. This team needs more than just a first rounder and some hope. we need a bundle of players that could start to reshape this team's outlook. Based on the feedback I was reading, a lot of you really like Johnny Grieve, and so do I. 86 to 91 potential, having a chance to take a high ceiling player that is already 22 years old with that college experience. 1, gives you a cleaner evaluation with the tight rating spreads. 2, perhaps a faster runway to the majors. His projected overall lands between 68 and 73, which means his overall would basically look like a starter on our roster right now. But he is 3rd on our board, unranked on the MLB board. So it brings to question, is he going to be available maybe after our very first pick? And is there a way we can have a better combination of those first 3 selections if we wait on some of these unranked players? That's a long time to wait for a player as good as Johnny Grieve. So if he's there at 7, I'll surely be interested. But who else is going to be there? Is there anyone else that would take over him? And would I feel all right waiting until our later first round pick to come back to Johnny Grieve? On one hand, you don't want to get too cute and miss out on a guy you really like. And on the other hand, you want to get the best combination of players. The top player on our board is Jose Gomes, and maybe he's the one guy where if he is actually there at 7 and he's 7th on the MLB board, I consider taking Gomes, who appears to have a really high ceiling with power at a corner outfield spot with great defense, and then we possibly attempt to get Grieve later. We'll see how it all plays out. It is time to begin the MLB draft. So if you're not familiar, the MLB does a draft lottery in the offseason, and they hold their draft then during the middle of the year. So teams know, 6 months in advance where they're going to be selecting. The Marlins had the 2nd best draft lottery odds of landing the number 1 pick, and they end up picking at 7. So we open this series with a team that's not very good, a very low payroll, and they got unlucky in the draft lottery, and they're picking 7th. The Rockies had the best odds, I believe. They're picking 4th. And it's the Nationals who will start us off. The MLB draft has begun, and Washington is taking Estevan Lopez, who was 10th on our board, but we didn't really scout him. And at number 2, it is the Los Angeles Angels taking starting pitcher Jason Sellers. He's one of those players I didn't even bother scouting, assuming he would just be off the board when our pick came around. And at number 3, we have the Seattle Mariners and Rob Weston, and his situation is the exact same. Earlier than our pick, so I didn't scout him. I'd kind of like to have that presentation for more of the first round. I kind of want options for being able to do that, but it's not there, unfortunately. We have 4 starting pitchers to open the draft, by the way. Jake Wade just went, another player that wasn't a target of ours. Then we have the St. Louis Cardinals taking Juan Ordonez, a late player I scouted as I wanted to know if he could potentially fall. And Walter Zhu goes to the Pittsburgh Pirates. He was one of the very first players I scouted this year. So now, 4 minutes on the clock. It is our turn. Where are we going with the number 7 overall pick? And also keep in mind, NFL fans, there is no trading down, trading up. You have your picks, you make your picks. I talked about Jose Gomes. We like the power upside and the defense. However, the doctor exam does say he's injured. I don't know how much of a concern that is, but it's not a positive. Johnny Grieve did opt out of the doctor exam, but injury risk on him is low. He wasn't expecting a big bonus, probably not thinking he would be a top 10 pick, but that's what our scouting says he is. The other outfield option here is Edmund Vina, who doesn't have the best defense to start out. Good plate vision, good speed, appears to have a well-rounded offensive skill set that'll take some time to develop. The pick is in, everybody. I've made my decision. And the Miami Marlins, with the 7th overall pick in the 2025 MLB Draft, are going to select third baseman Johnny Grieve. I want to take the high upside player. I'm taking the sure thing right now. Maybe I could get a better overall combination by waiting, but I love the skill set on Grieve. I think he has a high upside, an early starting future, and I like the rest of our board and the chances to still get difference makers at 39 and 42. I wanted to make sure this pick was a big hit for us, and I didn't want to take the chance in this spot. I didn't think there was anybody who wowed me enough to risk waiting on Johnny Grieve. So now we have to see who is going to be there later, and then of course we'll check on some ratings for players like Edwin Vina and see what else could have been possible. But now I won't know where the rest of the league would have valued Grieve. But waiting around 25 picks just didn't seem like the right call. I mean, here the Reds just took a player who was 104 on our boards, so these teams can be a little unpredictable. And it's unpredictable in the sense that players can go earlier than expected, but how about some players that maybe could last a lot longer than we're thinking? Like if Chet Sparbory were there with our next pick, he's projected to go a little bit early, but he has college experience, 80 to 90 potential, excellent defense in the field. He'd be intriguing at 32. And I'm thinking I assumed way too much when it came to those top-ranked players, because I didn't even think about scouting Diego Meza. He was the #1 player on the MLB board. He lasts all the way to 16. So I'm really intrigued now. Is his potential not that good? Is he more of like a mid-B potential player if he's going this late? Chet Sparbory just went, though. He ends up going to the Milwaukee Brewers. Also have Yusniel Perez, who went closer to where we had him ranked on our board. The best player falling down the board right now would be Jose Gomes, and he came in as our #1 ranked player at 90% scouting. Good defense, power in the outfield. It would be a no-brainer pick at 32. I wouldn't even consider anybody else there. But will he actually be available as Edgar Santana goes? And with that high potential range, 22 years old, I'm sure he's going to be a really good player in Detroit. There are a lot of fun players in this class. There were a lot of players I liked. We got the Yankees now at 29 overall, and they select Darren Nix at first base. And now we're wrapping up the first 30. It's the Los Angeles Dodgers. And they take Chester Frederick. Oh man, our pick's at 39. I thought it was like 35. Okay, it's 39 and 42, I believe then. So a little bit longer wait for us. I don't feel great about that. Our board certainly likes the outfielders here in this spot. And most of these players are pretty well scouted as Malcolm Sizemore is taken. Seeing a lot of closing pitchers going here suddenly. Once we get out of the first round, it just became reliever after reliever. And Jose Gomes goes to the Rays. Man, 36 overall. That really stings. So what is our plan B then? Andreas Ruiz could have really good potential, but just doesn't have a lot of offensive upside right now. Huge riser up our board. And we are now on the clock. So we have Ricky Berg, 76 to 86 potential. Showing good power, but not a whole lot else popping off. Nelson Eden. I stopped the scouting here, seeing where the offense was. Didn't think that was going to change a whole lot. So I think here then we make a play on the upside and we go Andreas Ruiz. If he's going to start off with a low overall but high potential, I mean, anything could happen anyway. But we need players with high ceilings, and we don't have many of them in the outfield right now. We're making our second pick. Andreas Ruiz, 87 to 99 potential. I am considering pitcher with our next pick. Johnny Daniel is available, 68 to 85 potential. We did scout him 90%. And we are now on the clock. Henry Morales just went. So both players we've drafted so far do have college experience. But I think I might like William Lyon more than Daniel. Daniel has more downside here on the potential range, plus his strikeout per 9 starts off really low. William Lyon, on the other hand, at least has the really high velocity, 74 to 89 potential, so another player with college experience. He can get that fastball up near 100, throws a sweeper, curveball. I like his arsenal more than a lot of the other pitchers that are available. So here at 42 overall, I'm taking William Lyon. So we've now drafted an infielder, an outfielder, and a starting pitcher with our first 3 selections. Scanning through some of the draft results here, we're not really seeing teams focus at all on those unranked players. We're the only team that selected one to this point. Maybe in future years I can be a little bit more patient on those players. I haven't done like any other drafts in this game. I don't try to master the game before I start franchise or anything. I do enjoy learning on the fly. I was hoping that Prince Tashner would be available a bit longer, but there was no way we were taking a reliever all that early in this draft. He just looked like a really good one. And if you've seen this bullpen this year, you'd have to have some interest. Only a minute to make this next selection, so 79 overall. We have Nelson Eden still available with a solid potential range, 39 on our board. Then reliever Hank Peralta. If you want to take a reliever at this stage, Philip Reeves also available. So a first baseman with limited power, but good contact and vision skills. Still didn't scout him, though, a whole lot. And then the board goes into more of the 100-plus ranked players. Eden still gives us a really high potential range here, 39 on our board. And enough stuff looks good defensively. So I'm going to make Nelson Eden our next selection. And right now it's discovery that is fueling this draft for us. 3 of our 4 picks were made based off of discovery. And we are on the clock now at 109 overall. We've taken 2 outfielders, 1 infielder, 1 pitcher. We have some relievers here who look intriguing. Anthony McGaffick was kind of intriguing to me, 67 to 85 potential. This might not be a bad time to take a chance here on a reliever. Just kind of looking through our options. We're going to go with Anthony McGaffick here before time runs out. He was just the most intriguing of those 3 relievers to me. And we continue to stay pretty close to our draft board. I've seen a couple of my late position player targets go, so we might be doubling up or even tripling up on reliever. Wasn't really my original plan, but Benny Piazza, I think, could be a good pick in this spot with 70 to 83 potential based off our 70% scouting. We're seeing pretty good day 1 skills. Fastball, slider, changeup, 6'5", 237-pound pitcher. Freddie Stewart is the next ranked position player, and I'm thinking maybe with our last pick, we'd end up taking him if he's the best option. Or do I go with Kenny Norris, who has a little bit higher strikeout upside? Give me Kenny Norris at the last minute, a buzzer beater pick. The strikeout upside. He also throws a screwball, so not everybody throws a screwball. Taking a risk there on a wider potential range, but he was already going up our board compared to MLB. And 1 more pick to make. We could still take Piazza here if we want to. The only position player on my board is Miguel Diaz, first baseman / left fielder. If we make this pick, it's a potential play at 71 to 87, and that's not too bad if that range is to be trusted here. But I have taken a couple relievers already. Man, I could take 3. We'll take Miguel Diaz and spread out our draft a little bit. 2 outfielders, 2 infielders, a couple pitchers. And that's going to wrap up our first draft of the Miami Marlins franchise. You can let me know down below, how do you think I did? Who would you have maybe taken instead in some spots? I'm sure there are a lot of things I could improve on here drafting, as I don't have a ton of experience doing it. Outside of my series, I mean, the last couple of years, the drafting has gone pretty well. But it's very important we draft well in this series to really fix this team up. So we are reaching the All-Star break now. The Marlins at 30-65. Do you think we have any All-Stars? Tanner Scott is a former Marlin. I don't think that counts. Hey, Jonah Bride is getting a lot of votes, actually. 470,000 at first base. More than Josh Naylor, Matt Olson, Rhys Hoskins, Pete Alonso. I forget if they still give everybody an all-star. He might be one of the best candidates for us. And no one else appears to be even in the top 5 at their position. The Home Run Derby this year. Who's in it? Marcell Ozuna, 32 home runs. Gunnar Henderson, 30. Then Teoscar Hernandez, Aaron Judge, Kyle Schwarber, Christian Walker, Jose Ramirez, and Pete Alonso all make it to the Derby. I just wanted to get into this to simulate because that will actually add the Home Run Derby win to that player's player card. And it looks like our champion for this year is going to be Aaron Judge, who defeats Marcell Ozuna.
Your Home Run Derby champion, Aaron Judge.
And as a matter of fact, Jonah Bride is the lone all-star from the Miami Marlins. He is now a 75 overall. His arm has gotten a lot stronger this year. Some good defensive development. That was always something that felt very slow in my past franchises. If we could just sort out the hitting against lefties, we might have a really, really good player. And I mean, he is having a really good season now. 29 years old, 75 potential. You almost have to wonder if he is a decent option to think about trading. Doesn't have a lot of major league experience, but he's around probably the top of his potential. And here is your Marlins leader in year 1. Jonah Bride gets his all-star appearance in a 7-2 ball game. Gonna roll this up the middle, and from second, he is retired. We'll try again here. We gotta face Mason Miller. No, thank you. I want actually to exit the game right now. All right, I'll try it. 101 right down the middle. And the changeup gets strike 3. Jonah Bride 0 for 2 in the All-Star game. And the American League is victorious this year as we wrap up a quick All-Star break. And we'll be pushing to the end of Season 1 here, this episode, and probably with one more. The Futures game does have Noble Meyer getting an appearance, as he's developed nice this year. That strikeout per 9 up 5 points, hit per 9 is up 7. Getting pretty close to Major League ready, I'd have to say. And then we have Agustin Ramirez also in this game. And I think we're going to see him enough pretty soon here at the Major Leagues, so we don't have to check on the Futures game. But offensively, I like what he's done this year, although the power is on the low side, still getting on base a lot, and developing nicely. So Agustin Ramirez will be making his debut soon, as I like to focus kind of the rest of the year in these situations, more so on the prospects. And typically my draft episodes are really focused on who we're drafting and who our best prospects are. It's also the time of year where a lot of players end up getting waived, so I'll have to check out the waiver wire here pretty frequently and see if there's anything for us to do. But our next step is to get our draft class signed by August 1st, or those players will not be coming to the Marlins. So Johnny Grieve probably didn't expect to get that call so early. He's already 73% motivated to sign. And we sign him for about $6 million, $800,000 less than the MLB projected or the recommended was. But we're hoping Johnny Grieve can become one of the faces of this franchise. We are declined by Andreas Ruiz, our second pick. And then we're declined by Nelson Iden, despite going over the slot projection. simming through games here pretty quickly so we can continue to try to get these players signed. I have to wait a little while to get offers out to William Lyons, so I want to bump up his motivation probably to gold here in this next week. Here is Nelson Iden. We'll come back. We'll go 108. He declines that one. And then we sign Andreas Ruiz. It does create a little sense of urgency here to get players signed, and I keep getting turned down. But I have a few players who have motivation under 50. I can only have 3 players here on the board at any given time, so I'm not able to raise everybody's motivation all at once. We are now able to offer to William Lyon. I'm going over the slot value, and we do get him under contract. We bump up our offer on Nelson Iden. He signs. Now things are beginning to come together, and we only have 2 more players left who both need to raise their motivation. Man, another IL stint on the way for Kyle Stowers. He is going to be out for 1 to 2 months now. I'll keep him on the 10-day, though, and hope he can still come back at some point. Kenny Norris signs, and there's only 1 player left, Miguel Diaz. And when you're doing this here, when you're still negotiating the contracts, you're still building that scouting progress. So you can still decide, do I want to offer the contract? Do I like where the scouting is going? And in this case, I'm still offering a contract to every one of the picks. Only 1 player left to sign. The deadline is fast approaching. It's July 30th. This is one of our last chances. And we sign Miguel Diaz. The whole class is now signed on. We'll get ratings here in a minute, but we do have the trade deadline hitting, so just taking a look at things. Here are the overalls now. We are still waiting for Yuri Perez to come off the injured list, but I think we're getting close. Looks like 1 to 2 weeks away from coming back from that elbow surgery. Sandy Alcantara, we're not going to make a move this year. I think that we have time. We can raise those ratings perhaps. Maybe next year is more the target as he would be 30 years old. I don't think he'd be regressing. He also hasn't had that good of a year, so we need a season to try and build up trade value before considering that. Braxton Garrett is up to a 79, and I don't intend on trading him anytime soon. Still has 3 years of team control left, but it looks like he's come off the injured list. Pitch at an all-right level. Nothing spectacular. Edward Cabrera has been a really nice surprise for me here in the first half, just seeing how well he's pitched. But as we see kind of where the stats are now, those walks have returned. The first handful of weeks of the year, the walks were low, and that was a nice change. But now the walks are high again, so this season blends in with the rest of his career. Connor Norby's development is looking really solid, now a 76 overall. And we've been seeing those ratings against lefties on the rise all season. If we check out those splits, he is hitting .277 against lefties, and that's where 8 of his 17 homers have come. And that's on only 94 at-bats against lefties. The progression in MLB doesn't always get it right, but I love seeing things like that reflected in player development when they're doing something really well. And then Jesus Sanchez. He's another player that hits righties a lot better than lefties, but even that's been improving this season. Certainly this team has some issues when it comes to hitting lefties. That'll be just a rating to keep an eye on overall. Xavier Edwards does it well. Derek Hill does, but it's the only thing he really does well. And then Conine, Myers. Yeah, we have some outfielders that can handle it, but not a whole lot of other players that can handle hitting lefties. Only a few players have power ratings here that creep up into the 60s or beyond. So this draft for us was important to try and start shoring up some of these gaps on the team. I think we are punting on the trade deadline, and I haven't even had the slider up for the CPU to be making moves. I'll bump it up here at the deadline, and if they want to make some moves, they can. And now we get into those later season days. August has hit. It's the playoff push. which we know absolutely nothing about. We are 34 and 75 currently, but we should get the ability soon to see our players' ratings. Ooh, that's a bad injury there for Lake. We'll put him on the 60-day. And here we go. This is what everybody wants to see. These are our draft picks here in Season 1 of the franchise. And here are the potential ratings. Johnny Grieve, 86, low end of his range. Andreas Ruiz at 94. William Lyon, 78. Nelson Iden is going to come in with 85. Anthony McGaffick, 75. I think that's solid for a reliever. And then Kenny Norris is also at 75. And a little bit of a surprise here, Miguel Diaz, 79. So I think every one of our draft picks projects to either be a starter or a potential contributor at the big leagues. Nobody under a 75 overall. And a 75 at reliever, I think, is still really good. Most of the bullpens around the league are going to have a lot of 60s, some 50s. So, I mean, a 75 overall reliever right now would be our best player. And I know we're not a very good team. Let's go to the Mets, where a 75 overall would easily slide into their bullpen. So if you just adjust those expectations, I think you treat like a 75 overall like a B potential player. That makes this class look pretty good. So Johnny Grieve, he's going to open his major league career, or his professional career, 68 overall. I love where the defense is right off the bat. He can play third, first, and second. The power is very low. So, third base is one of those positions where generally you'd like to have a player with high power. For us, he might end up playing some second base, but also we'll just see where he ends up fitting. We do have some good infield talent on this team. Looking at Connor Norby, Xavier Edwards, Otto Lopez. So first base, I think, could also be an option for him. But what do you think of Johnny Grieve being the number 1 pick of the series? Of course, we'd like to be a little bit higher on the potential range, but 86 is still really good. And we got a 94 potential player with our second pick. Andreas Ruiz will be a little further out from the major leagues, but I really like seeing the fielding up to 80, 79 on reaction, so he can work on training the bat along with his arm, and he'll have a chance to be one of the stars of this series. An 8 potential prospect makes him one of the top prospects in the whole organization. William Lyon at 54 overall. 78 potential. So maybe a ceiling of a number 4 or number 5 guy in the rotation. Velocity for him is really good. I'm excited to see how he develops. Nelson Iden gives us another lower 50s rated outfielder with really good upside, and I like that he has his arm already, developed, and his defense is pretty close to major league ready. The bat is going to need a lot of time, but we're going to be able to just focus on training offense for him and not worrying too much about the defense, because most of that is going to get better naturally, and once he has like a 70 fielding, I'd feel like he's good enough in that department. Anthony McGaffick, a 60 overall reliever. Seeing where the K per 9 and hit per 9 is already, I could see him having a short wait to make it into the major leagues. The walk per 9 is low, pitching clutch is lower, so not a high leverage reliever at this stage. But I think by year 2 or year 3, I'll be really considering making him a part of our bullpen. What about Kenny Norris? Hit per 9, K per 9, also really solid, but similar weaknesses with pitching clutch and walk per 9. Both players could be a part of our bullpen sooner than later. And I like that their skill sets are different too. McGaffick throws a cutter as his primary fastball, then a low 80s curveball. And Kenny Norris, he throws upper 90s fastball, screwball, curveball, changeup. Definitely excited about his upside. And our final pick, Miguel Diaz, first baseman / left fielder. The defense for him, not looking so great. Contact is in a good spot for a 45 overall, so expect him to be at A-ball for a while, as his development will need quite some time. But to just get a player there with a chance in the 6th round, I'm happy with that. All right, so I think our class is solid. I'm not going to say it's a great class, but I do think it's a good start for this franchise. How did some other teams do? Well, the Mets draft looks really good with all these 80-plus potential players. There's the Phillies, who didn't get off to the hottest start, but they recovered by the end on players who have an ETA of like 2032. Estevan Lopez was the number 1 overall selection going to the Marlins, so a 63 overall starting pitcher. Definitely a good player, but maybe a little bit of a reach at number 1. Here is Chet Sparbori. I liked him potentially with our 2nd pick, but he went too early. These are his ratings in Milwaukee, and they're pretty good to start out. I could see him being in the bigs within a couple years. The offense is high enough to start. Walter Zhu went right before us, and the Pirates took Lenny Doughty, who only has 74 potential. I did like him. Walter Zhu, really good day 1 contact, vision, speed. I'm liking these day 1 ratings a lot more than in years past in franchise. The Rockies took Jake Wade at number 4, 86 potential. So getting 86 potential in the top 10 seems to be about what most teams were doing with their 1st round pick. Padres, this one is going to sting. Take 2 catchers when you have Ethan Salas in the organization and their 74 and 73 potential. Oh, wow, really? Yusniel Perez fell to 19 and ends up only 71 potential. Wow. So I had just not done enough scouting on him. So he's strong. That's reflected in his power ratings and his arm strength. So it's not like he has no major league future. I mean, corner outfielder with a hose for an arm, can hit some homers. That's not a bad player. This is one of those games where it's easy to get caught up in the numbers, but you have to remember that the overall rating is really treating everything fairly equally. And that's why you're ending up with players like Xavier Edwards, who will have like 99 contact, but they're like 72 overall. I would much rather have a 72 overall who is really good at one thing than a 72 overall who's not good at anything, but he's, mediocre at all the categories. So there is a place for more narrow skill sets. And if you're like signing free agents, finding those guys who are good at 1 or 2 things can sometimes be the best bargains. So as bad as that pick kind of seems there on the surface, I don't think it's nearly that bad for Baltimore. And the Rays had taken Jose Gomes, and I considered making him our 1st round pick, and then we come back later to get Grieve. Gomes at 83 potential does have better starting power than a lot of the other outfielders, which really caught my attention. He also has great speed, projects really good defensively. I think if I had been able to get both those players, I'd be thrilled. And the Blue Jays had taken Edmund Vina right after we took Johnny Grieve. So he was somebody else I considered with that number 7 pick. And you gotta love where his offense is to start out. And he seems more like the prospects we were getting in the past 2 franchises, where the offense is pretty developed, but the defense isn't even close to major league caliber and won't be for a few years. And it's tough with those players because they can hit at the bigs, but you want to play him in the field, but you don't want him costing you games. But he still has an extremely high ceiling for the Jays. A few more players that stand out. We have Michael Marlin, who went to the White Sox, but after taking a couple outfielders with good defensive emphasis, I didn't think Marlin offered anything different from those players to make him our 3rd outfielder taken. Now remember, I drafted Kenny Norris, and it was a last-second switch, a buzzer-beater pick. Benny Piazza was the player I had come off, but he has 77 overall. So it's a spot where we would have done fine either way, but I did choose the lower overall player in that case. The highest I've seen so far is 95, Zachary Katimer to the Kansas City Royals, 62 overall. That's a good starting point. A lot of these really high potential players are like 45 overall. Here's Edgar Santana. He ended up going after our pick at 7. Really good contact on day 1. The hitting clutch too, also nice. And 83 fielding. So the Tigers did get an excellent shortstop prospect. Should be a great player. And they took him at 24. They also ended up with Prince Tashner, third-round reliever, who I had a feeling was going to be really good, but we weren't taking relievers quite that early. All in all, I do think it was a solid start to rebuilding this team. I like our draft class. Previously, our top outfield prospect was P.J. Morlando, so we definitely upgraded our outfield in the farm system. And for now, the number 1 prospect in our organization is still shortstop Starlin Caba, 19-year-old shortstop who has developed quite nicely this year, +7 power against lefties. Want to see him develop the contact, the plate vision, which unfortunately is going down. But it looks like his defense is going to be top-notch at shortstop. But it can be very difficult to develop players whose hitting ratings are in the 30s and 40s. And that's what we're seeing here with Caba only hitting 190 and slugging 249. What are the Angels doing 61 and 50, by the way? I wanted to check out some standings. Can't say I expected to see the Yankees here with less wins than the White Sox, 47 and 64. Cold streak, cold streak, cold streak. Yeah, you're going to need more than just Aaron Judge going off to be successful. These OPSs fall hard after Aaron Judge. It's a one-man show right now. And that is going to bring an end to today's episode. What did you think of the first draft of the series? Year 1 is almost complete. I think we'll do one more video. I'm still considering getting on to stream a few extra games before putting together that final episode. But we are going to wrap up 2025 shortly and get on to Season 2, where we can begin to develop the draft picks added today. And we'll continue rebuilding the Miami Marlins. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll be back with more Marlins franchise very shortly, everybody. Enjoy opening day baseball tomorrow, and I'll see you guys next time.